Something ancient has awakened and it's watching you. Have you felt eyes on you with no one around? Have dreams blurred into memory? Do you sense that time has folded and someone has returned? Taurus, the prophecy was whispered 30 years ago. Now, like Baba Vanga once foresaw, an invisible force seals your name in light. This is not imagination, it is activation. And once you hear what's unfolding behind the veil, nothing in your life will ever feel the same again. What if I told you that something or someone has been watching you your entire life? Would you laugh it off? Would you feel a shiver crawl down your spine? Or would you remember something your mind had long buried, but your soul never forgot? Because Taurus, something has returned. And it didn't just find you now, it was always there. The invisible eye, the one that Baba Vanga warned would awaken after 30 years of silence. The one that doesn't watch with malice, but with mission. The one that knows who you truly are, even when you've forgotten. So let me ask you this. Have you felt like someone was near, though no one was there? Have you heard your name whispered in the stillness of night? Have shadows seemed to shift, not in threat but in recognition? Then you already know. You've already been touched by the prophecy. This isn't superstition. This is not myth. This is remembrance. And it begins with the vibration of your name echoing through time. Yes, Taurus, your real name. The one not given by parents, but etched in the stardust of your soul. The one written in the books that no human hand has touched. And that name was sealed 3 decades ago, in a vision so precise that even the prophets wept, because you were marked not for punishment, but for purpose. You see, 30 years ago, a figure appeared in a trance state, eyes blind but vision wide. She murmured of a soul born under the earth sign, one wrapped in patience, silence, and unseen scars. She said, "He comes not to destroy, but to awaken. And the Taurus who bears the seal will know it when the world begins to feel too tight." And here you are, feeling it, aren't you? Routines that once grounded you now feel suffocating. People you used to feel safe with now seem distant, unfamiliar. Even your own voice, the one that once held certainty, now echoes with doubt. Why? Because your soul is no longer compatible with the reality you've been surviving. And the Watcher, the invisible eye, has returned to remind you, you are not what you've become out of fear. You are what you remembered in your dreams, but didn't dare to speak aloud. And this return isn't random. It aligns with cosmic movement. October 2025's alignment brings Uranus, the Awakener, into direct dialogue with your soul's architecture. Have you felt that thunder within? The kind that doesn't crash but pulses, the kind that says, "Move now," or "Be moved." Taurus, something is approaching, or perhaps it has already arrived, that doesn't follow the laws of logic. It is subtle, and yet undeniable. It shows up in numbers that repeat, 1111, 333, 444, conversations that feel staged by destiny, objects that fall without reason, always after a deep thought, a scent, a song, a flash of memory that wasn't yours, but now lives inside you. Because the Watcher doesn't just observe, he awakens, and he's here. You might wonder, why me? Why now? Because Taurus, your silence was never weakness. It was preparation. Your loyalty wasn't blindness. It was sacred endurance. And the time of endurance has ended. Now begins the time of alignment. So I must ask again, have you noticed the eyes? Not physical ones, the ones behind the veil. The gaze that sees not what you do, but who you are. There is no hiding now, because the truth is not arriving. It has arrived, and it looks like synchronicity. It sounds like intuition. It feels like returning to something you never consciously knew, but always carried inside. You are not losing your mind, Taurus. You are gaining your memory. The eye returns now to say, what you have feared was never meant to harm. What you have ignored was the message itself. And what you are becoming is the version of you that I saw long before you were born. This is why certain people are leaving, why familiar spaces feel unfamiliar, why your own reflection has started to shift, because your soul has begun to shed its skin. The invisible eye did not choose you randomly. You were called, marked, and now remembered. But Taurus, this isn't just a moment to receive, it is a moment to respond. And so, I invite you now to anchor this energy into the material world, to open the portal further with your voice, your choice, your declaration. I remember who I was before the world told me who to be, and I accept the eye that sees my true form. Say it slowly, let it echo in your chest, and as you speak it, feel the frequency shift. Because once you remember, the universe begins to reform around your truth. And if this message stirred something within you, leave your hype on this video. Like it, comment, share it with those whose light is still hidden. And if your heart feels it, become a member of this sacred channel. Each hype you give fuels this divine energy, helps this sanctuary grow, and carries this light to others who need it just as much as you do. There comes a moment when the veil doesn't lift gently, it rips. And Taurus, for you, that moment has already begun. The signs are no longer subtle, they are confrontational. The whispers have become voices, and the mirror now dares to reflect not your face, but your essence. Can you feel it? That pull to isolate yourself, not out of sadness, but to hear more clearly. That strange resistance when you try to do things that once brought comfort. That quiet voice, unshakable, that says, this isn't you anymore. This is not crisis. This is cracking open. The invisible eye that returned didn't just come to observe. It came to reveal not just what the world has done to you, but what you've done to yourself in the name of survival. Because survival, dear Taurus, was never meant to be your identity. It was just a bridge. But you've been living on that bridge for years. And now the bridge is burning, not to destroy you, but to force your crossing. So let me ask you, when did you start calling exhaustion discipline? When did you begin confusing loyalty with self-abandonment? When did you decide that your dreams were too much? And who told you that your intuition was just anxiety? The invisible eye saw it all, not with judgment. With precision, it watched you delay your joy, postpone your truth, hide your rage beneath smiles, and still it waited, because the eye was never here to save you. It was here to activate the version of you that doesn't need saving. And now, that version is emerging. This awakening doesn't look like light pouring in through stained glass. It looks like shadows collapsing around you, so you finally stop seeking refuge in what was killing your light. It feels like discomfort, doesn't it? Discomfort when you say yes and your body screams no. Discomfort in conversations that feel robotic. Discomfort in routines that once felt safe, but now feel suffocating. This is your soul's revolt, and it is holy. But here's the sacred dilemma. The more you awaken, the more you realize how much of your life was built while you were asleep. So now you stand in front of the mirror. And for the first time, it doesn't lie, it doesn't flatter, it doesn't adjust. It reflects clearly the version of you that's been buried under people-pleasing, perfectionism, and the fear of being too much. But Taurus, you were always meant to be too much, too grounded, too deep, too loyal, too real. And now the prophecy wants it all back. Let's speak of the silence, Taurus, the silence you've kept to protect others, to avoid conflict, to not rock the boat. But that silence, it has cost you more than anyone will ever know. It cost you alignment, rest, magic, love that saw you, a life that fit your soul instead of your fears. And now, the eye has brought you back to the edge of that cost, not to punish you, but to ask, will you keep sacrificing your essence to maintain what's no longer sacred? Because here's the secret that Baba Vanga saw and whispered to the stars. Taurus will awaken not through peace, but through the breaking of what no longer holds their truth. And beloved Taurus, That breaking is happening now. You may feel it as fatigue that sleep cannot fix, tears that come without reason, a hunger for something unnamed, something real, a sense of loss for a version of yourself you never got to fully live. That's not weakness, that's rebirth. And rebirth, though divine, is messy. The cocoon doesn't open gently, it splits. And what emerges is not a polished product. It is raw, wet-winged, trembling, and utterly magnificent. That's you now, emerging, unfiltered, unapologetic, unwilling to pretend that your fire is a candle. So let's call it what it is. This is not your downfall, it's your reassembly. You are not being ruined, you are being reclaimed. And everything that doesn't recognize this new frequency will either rise to meet you or fall away. Let it, because what's coming? A sacred encounter, someone who sees not your face, but your fire, not your history, but your potential, not your role, but your soul. This person may not arrive with grand gestures. They may come as a question, as a suggestion, as a whisper that aligns perfectly with your deepest longing. And when they do, you'll feel it, not in your mind, but in your nervous system, a calm, a clarity, a knowing that doesn't explain, it recognizes. But this presence won't find you if you're still hiding in the life that's ending. You must step out, and that begins now. There is a silence before destiny arrives. Not a peaceful silence, but one that vibrates like air right before lightning breaks the sky. And Taurus, that air is already inside your lungs. The invisible eye is no longer watching from afar. It stands at the doorway, and it's calling your name. But here's what they didn't tell you about being chosen. It feels like collapse. Before alignment, everything that isn't meant for you will begin to fall. Not because it's bad, but because your frequency has outgrown it. And Taurus, your soul has grown tall. It no longer fits in the containers you once begged to be accepted into. Now, they're breaking. Jobs, friendships, habits, versions of yourself built from fear and half-truths. They're unraveling, not in chaos, but in precision. This is the moment Baba Vanga saw, when a Taurus would stand at the edge of the life they built and feel the pull of the life they were born to live. And that edge is now. But no one tells you how painful that edge is. They don't talk about the ache of shedding the familiar, the grief of walking away from what you prayed would change, the heartbreak of realizing you stayed too long in places that couldn't see you, yet here you are, and here it is, the threshold, the place between no longer and not yet, where one more step will cost you everything, but standing still will cost you yourself. So let me ask you, what are you still holding on to that's already let go of you? Whose love are you still waiting to earn, even though your soul knows you've already outgrown their capacity? What version of you are you still performing just to avoid the loneliness of becoming real? This is the sacred reckoning, where the path doesn't appear until you take the step. And Taurus, it's time. Time to return to the fire. Not the fire that burns others, the one that remembers you. Because the eye, it didn't return for sentiment, it returned for activation. There's a prophecy pulsing beneath your skin now. It shows up as dreams where you're flying, falling, or forgetting something important. A recurring phrase that strangers keep saying to you. A name that keeps popping up, not random, but rhythmic. A pain in your chest when you suppress the truth one more time. These are not coincidences, they are coordinates. The universe is marking your exit from one dimension and ushering you into another. But here's the test. Will you walk through that door while still trying to carry the weight of who you used to be? You can't. Not because the door is narrow, but because your future is expansive. And here's something only the awakened will understand. There's a person, or force, approaching. They do not come to save you. They come to reflect you. Their energy will feel strange at first, too honest, too direct, too seen, but don't mistake that intensity for danger. It is recognition. Because when you've been performing for survival your entire life, being seen for who you actually are can feel like a threat, but it's not. It's your medicine. This figure may appear as a mentor, a mirror, a soul twin, or even a situation that forces your hand. Whatever form it takes, it will ask one sacred question: are you willing to leave the stage and live the truth? And that, Taurus, is the moment the door opens, but only if your answer is yes. This is the edge that Baba Vanga foresaw. Not death, but choice. Not destruction, but the surrender of what's in the way. And once you choose, the I vanishes. Not because it leaves you, but because you become it. You are the watcher now of your own life, your own truth, your own becoming. You no longer wait for signs. You are the sign, and everything in your world begins to rearrange. You thought it was over, that certain chapters had been closed, sealed, forgotten. But Taurus, the past has a strange way of returning when your soul is finally strong enough to face it without flinching. And now it returns, not as a punishment, but as a test of truth. There will be a knock, literal or energetic. You'll know it when it comes. A voice you haven't heard in years. A message you once begged the sky for finally arrives just when you've stopped waiting. A person, long silenced, appears again. Not to continue the story, but to reveal its true ending. And when it happens, something inside you will pause. Not because of fear, but because your soul will recognize this moment as a coded checkpoint, written into your timeline long before you were born. Baba Vanga foresaw this return, not of a person, but of a pending energy. A karmic loop that began 30 years ago, and now seeks its resolution through you. This isn't nostalgia, it's recalibration. Let's be clear, this return is not about rekindling what once was. It's about confirming what's become of you since then. So be ready for a text that shakes your chest, a dream that reopens a closed door, a conversation that leaves you breathless, not from pain, but from truth. A moment of eerie synchronicity, like time folding in on itself. This is not an invitation to regress. It is a final mirror. And here's the question the universe asks in this reflection. Are you reacting from the version you healed or the version you used to be? Because that determines everything now. And Taurus, you'll feel the temptation to explain, to fix, to resolve what was never yours to carry in the first place. But don't, because what returns is not seeking your effort, it's seeking your awareness. This is your chance to speak the truth you couldn't back then, not out of anger, out of alignment. You don't owe anyone your peace, but you owe yourself the freedom of finally saying, that wasn't my fault, that wasn't my future, that wasn't my full truth. And as you say it, the eye sees, the code unlocks, and the karmic knot begins to dissolve. But don't be surprised if, right after this encounter, everything accelerates. Because once your energy clears, the path you've been waiting for suddenly becomes visible. A delayed approval, a door that once denied you, now opens without resistance. An offer that aligns with your worth, not your wounds. A new relationship that recognizes the real you, not the version you edited to be accepted. Because here's the secret: clarity magnetizes miracles. And now that you've stepped out of confusion, the universe begins to deliver with precision, but it will come fast. So stay grounded. You may receive a sudden relocation opportunity, a partnership, romantic or creative, that mirrors your growth, financial support from an unexpected source, a spiritual teacher or ally who enters exactly when needed. And this is where many Taurus souls falter, not because they doubt the blessings, but because they fear that they don't deserve them. But let me say this clearly: your blessings don't arrive when you're perfect. They arrive when you're aligned. And Taurus, you're aligned now, painfully, powerfully, perfectly. So here's your task in this fourth phase. Do not shrink. Do not explain your expansion. Do not apologize for walking away. Do not delay the flight because someone else is still on the runway. You've earned this. With your patience, with your silence, with your scars. Let the old systems fall. Let the past reveal its truth. Let yourself receive. Because when the eye watched you for 30 years, it wasn't measuring your perfection. It was watching you survive, and now it watches you rise. The message has been delivered. The eye has seen. The mirror has reflected. The portal has opened. Now, Taurus, the final question remains. Will you walk as the one who knows? Because what's coming isn't more signs, it's embodiment, the integration of every whisper, every rupture, every return. This is the part no one talks about, when the magic becomes normal, when the prophecy becomes you, and that is the true test. Because it's easy to believe in destiny when signs are loud, but can you believe when nothing needs to speak anymore? Can you trust the stillness after the storm? This is what Baba Vanga foresaw, that after the awakening, Taurus would be faced with sacred responsibility, not to convince others, but to live unapologetically aligned, to speak only what resonates, to move only when it's truth, to choose only what reflects your vibration, no matter how beautiful the illusion once was. This final phase is not about doing more, it's about being clean. Clean in intention, clean in energy, clean in boundaries. Because now that you've seen, you cannot unsee. You've crossed the threshold, and the old world no longer recognizes your frequency. You'll notice people reacting to your peace like it's a weapon, situations crumbling without explanation, opportunities arriving that feel like, how did this happen so fast? That's because you're not manifesting, you're matching. The version of you that waited, begged, and compromised is gone, and in her place stands the Taurus of prophecy, grounded, awake, unmoved by noise, unshaken by loss, uncompromising with purpose. So now, what's next? Let's whisper it plainly. You become the one others sense but cannot name. You become the one who sees without speaking. You become the new eye, the mirror for others to awaken. And not everyone will celebrate you. That's not your concern, because your frequency is now a filter. It will remove what cannot walk beside your light and call in only those who are aligned with your truth. This is why you feel alone sometimes, not because you're unloved, but because your energy now demands purity. So take this moment, Taurus, and declare not just your worth, but your role. You are not here to repeat cycles. You are here to end them, to break the chain, to walk where no one dared, to carry wisdom that looks like rebellion, but is actually returning home. Your home, Taurus, is no longer a place. It's a vibration, and whoever finds you there belongs. So here's how we close this journey. Not with farewell, but with activation. Speak this truth aloud. Whisper it with reverence. Write it below, not for me, but for the universe to echo. I am no longer waiting for the sign. I am the sign. I walk as the prophecy fulfilled. Say it again, slower. Let it echo through the chambers of your being. Let every old version of you feel it. Let the ancestors feel it. Let the eye nod, because now the torch has passed, and the question is no longer, will the future come? It's, will you show up for it? And if this message ignited something within you, leave your hype on this video. Like, share, comment, and if your soul feels called, become a member of this sacred channel. Each hype you offer strengthens this transmission, expands this circle of light, and ensures that this message reaches others whose time is now. Welcome to the new path, Taurus. You are no longer waiting to be chosen. You have remembered that you already were.